So let's look at Python variables. Variables are important. Variable, what is a variable? So you have in coding something called a container where you can put data, right? So you have in mathematics integer, float, or string, and all those things. So like that, in these has to be represented somehow in the programming. That's why we have variables. In Python, the biggest advantage is you don't have to specify the data type like integer, float, and those things. You don't have to specify like what I am doing now. You can just say x equal to 5.0, y equal to 10, and that's fine. So here I'm specifying there is a way you can do that, like x colon string or x colon float or x colon int, to specify that, but we don't have to do that because Python understands depending on what content you put. For example, if I put x equal to 5, it understands that x is an integer. If I put x equal to 5.0, it understands x variable is a float. If I put x equal to some string, then it understands it's a string. So that's the biggest advantage. You don't have to remember compared to languages like Java or Python, Java or C++, C, where you have to specify data type. Like if you want to specify an integer, you have to say int x equal to 10 or y equal to in float, or float y equal to 2.0, such things. Yeah, you have to specify the data type. Here I don't have to. Data type, when I say data type, means integer is a data type, string is a data type, float is a data type. So that's what I call by data type. And variable is the container. Imagine variable will be a variable. We call it variable because it is changing. It is variable, that is the content can change. It's like a box where you can put different content and then remove it and then put different content. And here these are the keywords. These are Python keywords. Yeah, keep in mind these keywords you cannot use as a variable name. So because then the compiler will complain that you are trying to confuse the compiler. Like for example, in English, for example, if you have one word, it has a specific unique name, right? If I say country, that means it indicates a specific place where geographic boundary. So you cannot have two meanings for country. Similar to that, if you are working or writing code in Python, you have to use only English words, which is not in the keyword set of Python, because Python needs a set of keywords. Like English has a set of keywords, like English words are specific words. So you have to keep about that. So this is a way of you can x y z, x comma y comma z equal to, and then you can put the variable. So this is another unique way. This is not possible in other languages like Java or C++. Here you can put three variables and then assign three values to it directly. So this reduces the amount of code. If I write it also x equal to, or x equal to test1, y equal to test2, and z equal to test3, that will become like 2-3 lines of code, right? So you see that how I am writing now. So instead of that, Python gives you the option to put commas and then add the content also in commas, so that everything just goes in one line. So it's more easier and readable. So these are some of the points with Python makes it easier to program. If you are starting to develop code later, if you are going to a company, then you will see how handy, how easier it is to just declare say 10 variables and then put all the other values on the right side, for example. So I'm just printing out these values, and you see these 3 lines of code has been replaced with just one line above, and these are basically same way. XYZ equal to test1, test2, test3 is same as x equal to test1, y equal to test2, and z equal to test3. So these 2 lines are basically same. So that's why I'm putting it as a comparison to just indicate how it's possible. So now I'm just printing it, and you see there are some errors. Now I removed the errors. So since still there are errors, so it says indentation errors. You see, indentation is a very common thing which you have to be careful about. So now you see why the error has occurred. The if condition is just empty, and there is I have commented out the print. So the compiler says you have to put something after if. So I just comment out the if to just get this thing working, and then now you see I have test 1, 2, and 3 being printed. So that line is exactly the same as the 3 lines. So it is same. So when I compile, you will get the same results. But the way Python you can initialize variables is easier. So now I'm just going to compare these, comment out these 3 lines and then execute, and you get the same results. You see, that's a way many values to multiple variables. Again, you can Python print function is often used as an output. As I said, print is a way you tell the user what the system is doing or the programmer is doing on a user action. So if I press a button, the system tells you something, right, in any system. So that's happening because you will have functions like print, and then this is a way you communicate to the outside world, and that's why you have the whole print keyword and the print function to tell the external system what the system is doing. When you're putting a card in the card machine to get cash, then the card checks your pin and then tells you, do you want to check cash balance and stuff. So these are print commands which is displayed on your display. It's a way the system is talking to you, and programmers need to program it. Like when you press the button, something has to happen, and then you tell the user something, right? So that is what is happening here with the print. So that's what I'm explaining, because print, you can say print hello world and it'll print, but you might ask what's the point. But this is the point. The point is, like, it's a way the system will communicate or talk to you. It's a way the programmers pre-program. When you press a button, okay, this user has asked for cash balance, he presses the button cash balance, and the cash balance is displayed. So this happens with print and similar functions here. So here I'm just injecting some errors, and it says only concatenate string. So you cannot concatenate a string with integer, as you see here. So such things, you have to try out different things and see why it happens, and then analyze, and then that's how you learn. So you see, 5010 is not adding, it is just concatenating. It is considering 50 and 10 as a string, therefore it's just combining these two strings to make it as a one string. But in Python, plus can be used for integers, float, and everything. So if I just remove the quotes and say 50 and 60 there, you'll get 70, 50 and 60, 110. So you can just use the same operator to add to integers, or you can use it for concatenating two strings. So you just use plus. So this is something like an operator overloading we use in C++, which is a bit extremely complex topic in C++, but here in Python it's easy to understand. So here I'm defining diff. myfunc is a function. It is one block of code. You have x and print. So x and print are 2 lines of code which comes under myfunc. So now I'm creating another function called myfunc2, where I'm going to create other set of code. So this is the block of code. This is what we call functions, or a set of or a batch of code which is existing. It's like a paragraph. In text you have paragraph, right? So similar like that. So that's what in programming, and I'm calling these two functions one after the other. So why we need function is, like, it makes programming modular. You don't have to repeat a set of code. It saves a lot of time. So that's why we have functions. Otherwise you would have to repeat the same block of code again and again, which makes the code size large. So that's the concept of functions, where you set set of code here. And here you see I'm talking about global variables. So I moved the x on top, and now both functions are able to access this code. But if I put x inside this myfunc, the myfunc2 will not be able to see it. So that's what is the global variable concept and the local variable concept. So global variable is something which you define on top of the code or your .python file, or outside any function, so that it's visible for all the functions. So that's what we call global variables.